have the Ayatollah of fantasy rock and roller with us today, Adam Rank. How you doing, Rank?
They look great in person, and I just can't wait till next year we can pack it full of 25,000.
Hey, Bob, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. I didn't know it was Ball Guys Day. It was being ranked. I mean, how can you lose?
This is the Dynasty Vipers ViperCast.
Welcome to the Dynasty Vipers ViperCast. We are live. We are 8 minutes behind, but boy, do we have some good-looking people in studio today. And no one is better looking than the one, the only, D-Bro, Derek Brown. How you doing, Derek?
I was looking around. I was like, y'all must be talking about somebody else because I am a lot of things, but pretty ain't one of them, man.
I don't know, man. You got the beard straightener. You got it rocking out. You got the whiskey going, man. Like, we're doing pretty good right here.
Well, the beard straightener is just to try to shine up. It's kind of like spit shine in a porta potty. You know, you're just trying to, or like whatever, hanging a chandelier in a porta potty. Whatever kind of like miscellaneous random trying to dress up something that is not great. Whatever analogy you want to use, simile, metaphor, I don't care. That's where I land on it.
Well, I'm glad. It's one of the best looking porta potties I've seen in a while, so...
Oh my God, chandelier. That's good stuff.
That is the hard-hitting analytics analysis that you come in, you tune in for every week right here on the ViperCast. Derek, we're glad to have you come on here. I know I appreciate the grind that you've put together here, especially in the last year and a half. We're going to get into that here shortly. But first, we want to kick off with our mandatory 5 to 10 minutes of football talk. And free agency is all the buzz right now. So let's talk some early winners and losers, teams and players who are winning and losing during this free agency period. Who is your big winner so far?
I mean, I think I'm going to go with one of the recent signings and a guy that a lot of people are not really high on it. But honestly, I don't get why there's so much hate for it. Kenny Golladay. Like everybody talks about it, they don't like the landing spot. I was like, where else did you want him to sign that was going to be better? And he got paid, man. He got paid as a wide receiver 1. So he's going to get targets. He's with a quarterback right now that whether you like dimes or you don't like dimes, top 7 in deep ball passing like metrics last season. So he's going to throw it deep. He's going to get the money says that he's going to be the one there. And for everybody that's like, well, he's 28, did we just live through all this where people are like, well, don't fade wide receivers based off age? But then they want to throw that as being about Golladay, 27, 28. And then they're like, but last season, a guy that changed teams, they're like, well, don't fade DeAndre Hopkins. Don't do that. But everybody wants to just pile shit on about Kenny Golladay. And I don't really understand it, guys. Like, so, yes, I'm going to put Kenny Golladay over here in the winners column.
And the thing with Kenny Golladay here, and I'm glad you pointed this out, is Daniel Jones is growing into the position right now. There's room for him to grow with Kenny Golladay. You throw in guys like Saquon Barkley coming back for the Giants. You throw in Shepard. You throw in Slayton. I know Jordan doesn't look like he's too big on the Jason Garrett still being there. But There's some offensive weapons that the Giants have in place. And bottom line is they're still going against secondaries in that NFC East division.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing about the Golladay news is that with like everything that I already discussed, but like, is Garrett the sexiest play caller in the world? No. But this system last year, they were without Barkley. Evan Ingram is typecast poorly in that system. Like, signing Kyle Rudolph is a much better fit for what Jason Garrett wants to do with his tight end, which is a.k.a. run 5-yard, 7-yard curl routes all damn day. So, I think this offense, and if they address the offensive line in the draft with their top two of their top 3 picks, this could be a very, very different team. And I get the Giants are not a sexy team. Like, nobody is, like, waking up and saying, yes, I want to buy into Jason Garrett. Yes, I want to buy into Joe Judge. But, I mean, come on, man. Like, there's a lot to like here under the surface.
Yeah, Jason Garrett scares me, though. His play calling is a little barbaric, I guess. It's not as advanced as some of these new hot shots. But, yeah, that's a good call, man. I like the Galladay to New York. I just don't like Jason Garrett as an offensive coordinator.
I mean, Jason Garrett could still be terrible, and Galladay can ball out. I mean, how many bad coordinators did they have with the damn Lions? And he played well, you know? So I think it comes down to he's going to get a crap ton of targets. He got paid. He got half of a season off because he was taking care of business and being like, shit, no, I ain't playing for y'all, man. Screw Matt Patricia. He's like, I'm not doing it. And so, I mean, I like it. And, I think that he could definitely pay off on his cost. I mean, last best ball drafts I was doing, wide receiver 23, 24-ish. Maybe he drops down as some other guys get some hype because other players that are going behind him are going to get the hype machine. Like, everybody loves Brandon Ayuk. Everybody loves a lot of other wide receivers that are sitting in that 30 range. So, I don't know, man. Like, I see the target volume that is definitely going to put him somewhere around, as long as he stays healthy, inside somewhere around the top 24, top 28. And if he gets the touchdowns and he gets more targets than we're even thinking about, or this offense doesn't look like total dog shit in 2021, then I like it. I definitely like it. So I find myself on the other side of it.
Yeah.
When we're looking at mock drafts right now, there's a lot of people, a lot of analysts out there, draft nicks, so to speak, who have a wide receiver or who had a wide receiver being mocked to the Giants, whether that's Jamar Chase falling or Waddle or whatever that looks like. We know that they could use a little bit of offensive line help. We know they could use some help along the defensive line, especially at the edge position, probably more so than anywhere. Mm-hmm. This really, the signing of Galladay here really takes them out of the need to draft a wide receiver that we've all been talking about.
Yeah, I don't see them going wide receiver. I think probably sitting at 11, you're looking at like Rashawn Slater probably. If it's not Slater, do they trade back a little bit? I don't think they go wide receiver because you look at how all their wide receivers fill out right now. Like Shepard's into a role in the slot where he should be. Mm-hmm. Slayton is going to start outside opposite them. Yep. Garrett's offenses have primarily gone most of his targets through two, maybe a third ancillary pass catcher. So I think a lot of the target volume is going to be concentrated on Galladay. So no, I don't see them going edge. Maybe they could, but I don't see an edge guy that's necessitating being picked inside the top 12. So I think they go offensive line. They got a good start right now with Andrew Thomas and Will Hernandez on one side of the line. So if you draft an offensive lineman, you pick up another guy in free agency, or you just roll with as is. 3 or 5 positions are above average. Yeah, then it's an upgrade.
I like that they're going all in with helping out Daniel Jones. We've had mixed results from him in his first 2 years. First year certainly showed signs of being a capable quarterback. Now they're surrounding him with some talent. Certainly the talent from last season to this season is going to be a huge upgrade. And they even, they made some other pretty good signs too. An underrated one that I saw today, I'd like to get your take on here, Derek, is Josh Reynolds going to the Titans. That's not a big sexy name or anything like that, but with no Corey Davis, no Jonnu Smith, there's going to be some targets that our guy Josh Reynolds could end up taking.
I like the Reynolds signing because, they definitely had a need at wide receiver. I still think they probably can go address the position in the draft. Now, the big thing about Tennessee that and nobody's talking about it right now, is that Arthur Smith being gone and how much that impacts that freaking offense. To me, and A.J. Brown is a guy that people are drafting as a top 10 wide receiver. Right. Talent-wise, I'm not going to say that he's not that. My problem is that Todd Downing is taking over this offense. Arthur Smith is somebody that I love his play calling. The guy does a lot of things right. And for everybody that wants to talk about, it's run heavy and blah, blah, blah. This offense that they've run in Tennessee was also play action heavy as hell. And smart offensive coordinators run a shit ton of motion. They run a ton of play action. And you could say whatever you want to about them running the ball and stuff like that. But I'm really actually kind of concerned about this whole entire offense. So as good as the Reynolds signing is, and it's good for his target volume moving forward, I've never been a giant Reynolds fan. Look, can he be useful as a field stretcher? I just don't know if he's going to be able to take that next step and really cement himself as a guy that we're like, okay, even if he gets 105 targets, can he disappoint with that, especially working on the outside, new offensive coordinator? And I've got a lot of questions about how that system is going to run. Like right now, I'm probably just going to go other ways. Like I don't want a lot of A.J. Brown, despite the talent, because I am worried about the system and what that does to Ryan Tannehill. Derrick Henry, if you want to take the shot, fine. That's great. I mean, he's going to get the damn volume as long as he's healthy, but I'm a little bit lower on Reynolds than maybe you are.
Yeah, I mean, I like Reynolds. Being here in LA, I've seen him play a lot. He flashes every now and then, but I agree with everything you said. Yeah.
So what about the biggest loser? Who is the biggest loser so far in free agency? Is it the wide receivers?
I mean, there's a lot of different guys. I wasn't huge on their landing spots. I mean, just off the top, I'm trying to think of losers. I've been talking about winners all freaking week. I could say one that I don't agree with a lot of people on, Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. Like, I don't want anything to do with either one of those guys. And people keep pointing to the Jonnu Smith contract, and I'm like, you do realize this team had one shit ton of money to pay him, right? Like, they're like, oh, well, he's going to get the target volume. He got paid $50 million. And I'm like, so? Have you watched the New England offense previously? Has anybody ever watched the Patriots play football? Like, I'm not going to draft this guy. He's going to fall inside the no man's land of redraft tight ends, which is that round 5 to 8 range where everybody talks themselves into like, this guy could be a breakout. And then every damn year outside of Darren Waller, everybody shits the bed. No! So, like, I know all the Jonnu hype and people are trying to confirm their priors. Like, the guy is super talented. I'm not going to get away with that. Like, I love Jonnu Smith as a player, but the landing spot in New England, Josh McDaniels and that offense, like, they do not give two shits about where the ball goes.
Right.
Everybody they signed is all about matchups. They brought in Nelson Aguilar. They have Jacoby Myers. They have Kendrick Bourne. They have Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. All of these guys can play different positions, and this offense can be multiple. So basically the Patriots thing is all about, like, okay, how do we beat your defense based off of matchups? Where are the holes in your defense that we can attack? And based off of that, if you want to try to figure out who's going to get the targets that week, that's fine. But trusting them from a dynasty aspect or a redraft aspect where you're actually going to have to freaking set lineups? Hell no. I don't want any of these guys outside of Cam Newton. Like, can't stand the landing spots for Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. If one of those guys would have landed there, maybe you could, like, twist my arm and talk me into it. But both of them? Nah. No. Mm-mm.
But if you had to choose one, which tight end would you choose?
Jesus Christ, you're going to make me do it.
Dalton Keene.
I mean, N'Keal Harry qualifies as a tight end with the way he runs, right?
There you go.
No, I mean, honestly, I would pick Jonnu, but it's only because I believe in his talent more than Hunter Henry. It has nothing to do with the contract. It has everything to do with Jonnu Smith. You give the dude the ball in space, he's going to stiff arm somebody, he's going to juke somebody, he's going to turn 5 yards into 8 yards consistently, 5 yards into 12 yards consistently. So if I'm leaning with somebody, I'm going to lean with talent.
Yeah.
So from one genius organization to another, we go from the Patriots to the Raiders, who assembled a tremendous offensive line and have decided to just implode that. And Matt's a Raiders fan. And then, you know, I guess the Josh Jacobs, I don't know. They don't like what they're seeing, and they bring in Kenyon Drake. I don't know. Can you explain what's going on there in Las Vegas?
The Raiders are dumbasses? I have no clue, man. Like, you gut your offensive line that was hurt all last year, and the year prior, they were a top 5 to 7 blocking offensive line. You gut that line, and give players away to pay a running back. Like, what? What are we doing here, people? Like, what? I don't get it. Like, what are we doing here? Like, oh, let's slash the payroll. Okay, let's get rid of the offensive line. Good luck, Carr. There you go, because you're great under pressure, my friend. And then you pay a running back after you spent a first round. This regime spent a first round pick on Josh Jacobs. And they talk about we're gonna put Kenyon Drake in the slot. Okay, R.I.P. the IT man, Hunter Renfrow. I'm sorry, excuse me. But dude, like, what are we doing here, man? Like, I'm sitting here thinking of off the wall stuff because it's the Raiders, and you're just like, okay, well, what are they gonna do next? we gutted our offensive line. We decided we're going to draft Henry Ruggs in the first. We still have no freaking defense. We don't have a lot of money to speak of, but no, we got money and we paid a running back, so now we don't have money again. But I don't get it. I have no clue. I talked about it on our podcast yesterday, and I was just like, yeah, both those guys? Nah. Just no. Like, if you wanted to take your shots on Darren Waller, you wanted to go with John Brown or Bryan Edwards late, fine. Have at it. Past that, hell no.
All I can see,
and I'm sorry, Matt. I'm sorry.
It's good, dude. All I can see is someone shopping that, and you pay a running back. Like that's classic.
Crazy,
that's
man.
You need to cut that and loop that.
We got video editors for that first stuff, so we're definitely going to be cutting and looping that. The only thing I could think of, the only rationale I could think of here is they.
Oh, hit me, Matt! Please tell me, talk me into this. I'm going to sit back here and listen.
There's no real rational explanation. I'm trying to get inside their heads here. They wanted Lynn Bowden to work out so well last year. They took him in the third round, but they're like, you know what? Maybe Kenyon Drake can be our Lynn Bowden, and let's try this again. But let's pay the man. Let's pay the man to come in here and do this. The best part about this show is we talk off air how we wanted this thing to be timeless. Anytime we talk about the Raiders and their ability to navigate anything, it's timeless because it ain't going to change. We can play this show in 10 years and it's going to be the same thing over and go. It's like Groundhog Day. It's like COVID Day. It's COVID Day in Vegas is what it is.
Matt, hold on a second. I'm old enough to remember when Josh Jacobs was going to get targets. That we were going to see the evolution, the next stage. And now we hear for Kenyon Drake. I mean, the evolution. Are we going to get a double evolution here? Is the Josh Jacobs one like, was that delayed? Was that delayed and now we get the double evolution of the running back position and it's all running backs? Like, I don't get it, man. The Raiders, it's absolute insanity. Like, I don't understand what they're doing. Last year, some of their moves made at least some type of sense. You're like, okay, I'm not down with Henry Ruggs, but hell, I could be wrong. If I'm wrong about him, and they're going to use him as a short area target, give him yards after the catch, get the ball out of Carr's hands quickly, okay, fine. Like, yes, I can understand that. If you look back through Gruden's history and where target shares and what he does with ADOT and stuff like that, fine, talk me into that. And then Ruggs doesn't do anything, and it's Nelson Aguilar, and I'm like, okay, well, never mind. It's just the Raiders are dumb.
I mean, I don't think they believe in Carr, so I think they're just going to run the ball every play. So they need two running backs.
Oh, so it's triple option, baby. So it's Mariota, and it's Jacobs, and it's Kenyon Drake, all on the field at once.
Yes.
Bring back the wing tee, the wishbone. We're coming back with it.
Let's go.
Let's go. Old school. Spider wide to banana coming at you strong.
Let's go.
Speaking of strong, we've spent way too much time on football talk here. So, Calvin, take us to the next section.
All right, Derek, you're the closer for a major league team, or you're a brand new wrestler and you're about to go out of the mound or out to the ring. Music hits to bring you and introduce you to the crowd. What is that music? What's your intro music?
The only song that I could possibly go with here, and that's Shoot to Thrill by AC/DC. I absolutely love it. The build-up, everything. It's one of two AC/DC songs. It's either Back in Black or Shoot to the Thrill. It's one of those two. The riffs, the build up, the tempo changes. Give me all that smoke.
So you have to sing some of the song, right?
Oh, heaven, hell! You don't want that. You don't want that. Like people's ears are gonna bleed. They're gonna turn this show off. Nobody wants that. I promise you, nobody wants that.
No, that's awesome. So I appreciate that. And so that would have been a great intro and all that. And maybe even as a kid, you spent a little bit of time picturing that moment for you. And, sports are a huge part of all of our lives growing up. Those of us, especially those of us that turn this into a hobby of some sorts. We love sports. So what about you? Was there a particular sport that you loved as a kid or something that you excelled at maybe that you were really good at? Or what was your experience with sports like as a child?
So, looking back on it, I never actually played any football. I'm going to lie about that. I played 2 years of rec in football, got the crap kicked out of me because I was a really skinny, short, white dude, and I just sucked. Basically, they put me on the line. They were like, okay, we're going to get you to play tackle. Oh, well, you can't block, and you kind of suck at that. We're going to put you at defense. Oh, you're slow. We're not going to do that with you either. And so I played really, really limited football. And then actually my main sport of choice was baseball. I played baseball growing up, played baseball in high school, a little bit of college. I was a pitcher of sorts. And that was really the go-to for me. So a lot of it was baseball. I also did swimming as well. So competitive baseball and swimming when I was growing up all the way through high school.
It's really surprising how many football analysts started off with the grassroots of baseball, more so than football. It really, we've done this quite a few times. We've asked this question throughout the series, and I would say it's probably leaning more towards baseball. We've had a few golf thrown in there, but if we're looking at a 50-50 split, football hasn't hit even 50% of the total of everyone's passion. And I look around this room here. I don't know. I'll ask Major here in a second, but I know Calvin is a baseball guy. You're a baseball guy. I'm Canadian, so it was hockey. That was kind of our thing. Major, what was yours?
Football, man. I've football my whole life.
I never played football, and it's not because I didn't love it. I never played football because I wasn't the biggest guy, I wasn't the fastest guy, and honestly, I loved baseball so much that I was like, if I go out there in football and I get the shit kicked out of me or I tear something up, then I'm not going to be able to play baseball. So the biggest hindrance of me or biggest reason behind me not playing football was because I loved baseball. I used to go to sleep every single night watching Baseball Tonight on ESPN. We'd watch it. If we had a TV, I was falling asleep watching that every single night.
Yeah, I played baseball, but I could not hit to save my life. So I was super fast and still on the bases. So I just started playing football, played running back and did my thing,
Yeah, I was like a singles contact hitter. It was all pitching for me.
And I grew up in the smallest town ever. So we played a little bit of everything because you had to play everything or you had no team. Every kid had to play every sport just to make a team out of it. But eventually I learned it was a lot easier to run at someone and hit them than it was to skate at someone and hit them. I don't know if you guys have much experience skating, but it's a little bit different than putting on the cleats and running after somebody. So that's where football eventually took over. It was a lot easier for me to do than what came more natural than hockey in my case.
Derek and I are from Louisiana, and we didn't see ice until we left the state, probably. So, no, we didn't. No experience skating at all.
They had a few indoor, semi-professional, professional hockey teams. They never really took off in Louisiana. It's weird. I don't know why that didn't ever really took hold, but it never lasted longer than about a year or two. And they were like, nah. You're watching hockey and it's 95 degrees outside in the middle of December, and people are like, well, I wonder why the tickets aren't selling.
Well, that's in a lot of those states, though. And correct me if I'm wrong, because you guys are down south. I know Arizona doesn't really have what you would consider air conditioning at times. We talked to Mike Wright, and they were talking about their air conditioning. Going to the hockey rink might be that one result in air conditioning that you can actually experience. And Calvin seems to know what I'm talking about because right away he came off of mute.
I'm laughing that you think Arizona doesn't have air conditioning. What do you think is going on here in the United States? Arizona definitely has air conditioning.
If not, people will be spontaneously combusting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like 120 degrees there. Of course they have.
You know what I'm saying? You want to go somewhere where it's nice and cold. You want to go lay down on the concrete where it's like, oh yes, that's what a hockey rink is. It's like the biggest air conditioned environment you can imagine.
That is true. Good
True.
luck.
So you think more people down south? It's like, oh man.
Or if you're just in Louisiana and Texas, you just don't leave your freaking house during the summer.
Right.
You're like, no. People are like, and that's why like we go on vacation sometimes, like to other states, and we have friends in California. We'll go visit them in the summer and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh my God, this is why you do things outside. No wonder you have all these hobbies. Like, I don't understand that. Like, in living in Louisiana and Texas, the summer months come and you're just like, you walk outside, you're like, I'm dying. This is terrible. It's horrible, man. Like, you're like, I feel the last 4 meals that I've had, the fast food I ate last week, like sweating out of my pores. And people in California are like, man, let's go for a picnic today. This is great weather. And people in Louisiana and Texas are like, forget that shit. We're going to sit inside and eat where there's air conditioning.
Derek, you're a maniac, dude. What the hell?
Dude, I'm just telling you how it is. That's what happens.
Preach.
Oh, man.
Right on.
What part of Louisiana are you from?
The middle of the state originally, Baton Rouge and New Orleans area for about 12 or 14 years before I moved over to Texas.
Nice.
So when I get really animated or the whiskey comes out, usually the southern comes out even more. So if you get that more and more through the episode, I apologies, but there's also another side of me that's like, sorry, not sorry. It's just part of the package that you signed up for when you asked me to come on for.
You know what? I feel you. I think I'm in the one climate in the world that reaches like 110 in the summer to 120 in the summer and 40 below in the winter. We have that whole scale. We can't win. It's either too hot in the summer, it's too cold in the winter. There's no in between.
You're Canadian? It gets that hot up there?
In Alberta here in the bold ass prairie, it gets that hot. It's like Vegas almost in the summer. It gets ridiculous.
I mean, I'll put my hand up. I'm surprised. I mean,
I'm just gonna stay out this conversation. I'm in LA. We get like 90-degree weather.
You just put yourself on mute, Major. You're not part of this. You're in that California where you have hobbies outside. This is why you're out there running wind sprints, getting ready for football, and not dying in the summer. Yeah. You can sit this one out, dude. It's all good.
But I feel you because I've been to Haiti, I've been to Costa Rica, I've been to a couple of things, and I've been dying. I can't handle the humidity. Is what gets the heat.
Yes.
I'm fine.
Humidity
the heat, I'm fine. The humidity kicks in, and I can't breathe, and I'm going down. Like I'm a fat guy. I'm chubby. I sweat the pounds off. It is ugly. You heard of you've heard of ugly crying? I'm like an ugly sweater. You know what I mean? It's like,
Hey, that's classic.
Oh my God, that's funny. That's awesome, man. No, but the humidity is a real thing, and like it goes both ways. And I know, like, oh my gosh, like we've gone off the rails and we're talking about weather, and this is not supposed to be a funny conversation, but here we are. Humidity's a real freaking thing, though. Like in the summer, you're like, I think I might actually die right now walking to my car, or I walk to my car and you're like, well, that shower that I just had 10 minutes ago, that's already at its expiration date. Glad I spent the last 15 minutes doing all of that. But even in when it gets cold outside, people will give you shit because they're like, oh, it's just 30 degrees down there in Texas. It's like negative 15 up here in who knows where. And it's like, that humidity when it's freaking cold in the south is totally different. Like, I've gone to Colorado and other places, and it's been 15 degrees outside, and I'm like, I could walk outside in shorts and a short sleeve shirt, and I'm just like, whatever, man, it's all good. As opposed to like 20 degrees and a 10-mile-an-hour wind in Texas when it's cold, and I'm like, I think some things might have froze off. Like, I need to walk inside and go check. Like, I don't know if I got some stuff anymore. Like, it's really cold.
So we're gonna we're gonna take it back to fantasy football. We're gonna leave that right there. Let's let that like marinate over there. So what's like your favorite league you've been in? I know we all had these like hometown leagues, the first league you were in, and all that good stuff. What's your favorite league you were ever in?
So one of the first leagues I ever got into was with a bunch of college buddies. and it's weird because I hadn't even thought about this, but I just told this story the other night, so it's really fresh in my mind. Was one of the first leagues I ever got into with a bunch of guys that like I had known for a long time. My brother-in-law got me into this league, and Louisiana Park comes up in this. Is that the first ever league that I was in, and I was doing the draft. I'm doing this draft while I'm evacuating for a hurricane, driving north, and I'm on the phone. My brother-in-law is at his house. He's got 2 computers, and he's like, who do you want? Okay, no. They already got drafted. They're in the queue, and I'm getting, like, timed out and stuff, and I'm like, I'm cussing. I'm driving away, trying to save my life from a hurricane, and at the same time, I'm like, what do you mean I just got auto-drafted in the 3rd round? Like, that's bad, man. What are you doing? And he's like, my internet went out. I'm like, oh, my gosh. I'm like, y'all are going to sit here and talk so much shit about me and how bad my team is, and you're the schmo that's supposedly drafting my team, a.k.a. set yourself up for a winner, because I remember it because he was either drafting right next to me or 2 picks after me. So he's like, oh, well, you timed out. Oh, well. Oh, well, who did you take? What do you mean that's who you took? That's who I wanted. That's who I told you to take. And I'm like, man, something ain't right going on here. That's one of the first leagues I was ever in, and I'll never forget it to this day, because I was like, I ended up like getting either in the championship game or I made a long run through the playoffs in that one because of waiver wires and what have you. But my team walking out of that draft, like that's one of those emails you're like, yep, I'm getting like an F- on this draft. That's happening.
Man, I could listen to you talk all day long, dude. So pick one. DFS / Dynasty or redraft, and why?
It ain't close, man. DFS and Dynasty, not even close. Nice. I love the nuance of Dynasty. I love being able to look at building your team, and really once I got into this, I love evaluating rookies. Love it. The more I've gotten into it, especially, I'd say this year is probably my favorite because of whether it's having access to different statistics and being able to like match up some of the things you see on film. And DFS, man, like that, honestly, I started as a redraft guy into this space, and I've tried to add certain things to the tool bag. Like whenever I started writing way before FTN, when I was writing with my still now, one of my bosses now with Elliot Christ over at a now, I think they're still out there, but man, nobody care about that site anymore. Whenever I was with the Quant Edge back in the day, I remember getting on that site and like, I was like, bro, you do know that I don't know what DFS is, right? Like, I don't play DFS. I live in a state, or I did live in a state that, like, you couldn't play DFS in Louisiana at the time. And I love DFS with every fiber of my freaking being nowadays. I love the puzzle. I love that you're not married to any of it. I love trying to create that lineup every single week and all the different nuances, whether it's contest selection, all these kind of things. I absolutely love it. And it's one of those things that like I'm 3 years into it right now, and I still feel like there is still other ways that I could still get better at this. So that if I got to pick one, that's it.
Perfect.
So you're kind of saying though the DFS, that's like fantasy football's commitment issues kind of platform, isn't it? You're really not committed. Yeah. You get a new shot every week. You can't hate your team because you got to pick a new team next week.
It's the Dynasty version of, well, I mean, that startup was nice, but guys, I think I'm out of this league. I love y'all, but I got to go get another startup. I like this Dynasty league just ain't for me after one season.
And you can really tell your passion for DFS because in 2020, I think it would probably shock you more than anybody, but you were nominated from the FSWA.
I don't know about everybody.
Hey, anyone who pays attention and seen the work you put in, it doesn't surprise us that you were nominated for the Fantasy Sports Writers Association Award for DFS Writer of the Year. Writer of the Year. Tell us about that. How did that make you feel? How did that nomination make you feel? I'm looking at your face right now, and anyone who's watching right now, like not watching the show but listening to the podcast, like you're watching D Brown here. He's got a smile ear to ear. It looks like he still doesn't believe that he got that nomination.
No. So I actually put in for that, and threw in the filled out the form and filled it out for our podcast and stuff like that. I thought if anything that like if we possibly got nominated, like if everybody in this space just decided to retire and they picked what was left, that maybe our podcast got nominated. But there's no way, and I'm not trying to be humble. I'm not trying to blow smoke at anybody. None of that. I never, ever, ever, ever thought that I was going to be nominated for anything. And so when that came across, I remember I was writing up an article. I was maybe doing like a showdown article. I forget what I was doing, but I was writing up an article at the time. And all of a sudden, like I look over at my phone because I was about to switch to the next song because I always write with music going. And my phone is just... like, whether it's like our FTN Slack or Twitter and all this other kind of stuff. And I was like, what in the hell is going on? And so I started rolling through all of this and I was like, huh? And I reach out to the handle of FSWA and or one of the people with it, and I was like, I think y'all might have tagged the wrong person in this. I was like, this ain't supposed to be me. And they're like, no, it's right. And I was like, what? Like, no, man. I never thought that I would have ever been nominated for that. So it was one of those things that was just surreal. And again, like, yes, I still don't think it's real. Now, of course, like everybody's competitive juices, once you get nominated for something, you're like, well, sure as hell, you want to win, right? But, I mean, did I ever think that I would ever have been nominated for something like that? Hell no. No way. No how.
Yeah.
That really is an honor, and congratulations on that. And I think it's probably the first of many, many, many to come.
Too damn kind, man. Too damn kind.
I'm in Louisiana, and actually still we cannot participate in the DFS world. So take me through a little bit about the DFS world and like what's your favorite sport in the DFS world to play?
I mean, I stick to mainly NFL. I dabble in other sports, like with our guys for FTN Daily, because they're just as good as they are. I'll dabble in MLB. I've actually dabbled in some damn NASCAR. But past that, I stick to NFL. I'm really a single entry 3-max kind of guy. I don't go and run 150 lineups. I don't go run 20 lineups and all this kind of stuff. I mean, really, that's kind of what I stick to. It's kind of one of those things where, like, maybe I'll eventually get to a point where I am dabbling in other sorts of it. But a lot of it's single entry. And depending on what contests look like that, lower number of entries. So 200 to 500 people kind of contests.
Gotcha. Well, that's really cool, and I hopefully very soon we'll be able to participate in some of that, or I'll have to just cross the border to Mississippi or something and find a way to put a couple lineups in. But
well, Louisiana actually they actually went through they legalized it. Now, how long that takes to actually go through? I know the bill passed.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Because I had family members that were like, "We voted when we voted yes, we thought about you," and I was like, "Yes, woo!"
Yeah. It did, just waiting for, like you said, waiting for the legislation to finally get through. And I think it's even like by the parish, it's got to do it or whatever. I don't know, whatever. I just
because we've stopped. We've gone home to see family, and we've stopped at the Texas State border. And my wife, like, we'll be driving home to see family at like 1 a.m. And she's like, "Why are we pulled over?" She'll wake up randomly, and I was like, "I got to enter my contest before we cross the border."
Yeah. And
she's like, and she's gotten so used to it by now. Maybe the first time that happened, like, she was like, "What?" And now she's like, "Oh, okay," and she falls back asleep. But yeah, I was like, no, I mean, because once you're entered, you consider and manipulate your lineups once you get to the other states that are not legal and stuff like that. But yeah, I pulled over before the border and been like, "Oh, I forgot to enter for Sunday. We're gonna be gone all weekend." Boop, 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 boop. I'm in. All right, we're good. Let's keep trucking.
So, for so much of us, like, fantasy football becomes a great hobby. We love to, have stories like that, or we enter into leagues where we have somebody who will sabotage our team or something like that. We love those things. But you decided, you know what, just being a participant in this sport is not enough. I want to take part in it and be a big part of this community. Like, what was that decision like for you? And like, at what point did you realize, like, okay, I've got something that I can contribute?
So, I mean, when I originally got into doing this about 5 years ago, I literally, I mean, legit, like, woke up one morning and said, like, I love fantasy. I just went and bought, like, the cheapest, dirt cheap Chromebook that there was that I could find, and I was like, man, I might pen some words or something like that. Because I've been so obsessed with fantasy for so freaking long, and I mean, we had moved from Louisiana to Texas, and of course, you make the move to another state, leave all your friends, your family behind, stuff like that, and you're like, okay, well, until you make some more friends and kind of get acclimated to the area, you kind of dive into hobbies or things to pass the time and stuff like that, and I was like, well, I mean, shit, like, I mean, never been that much into writing, but I love fantasy, and maybe somebody grabs something out of it. I mean, maybe I could find someplace that'll actually let me write some words. So I hopped onto Twitter, and at that time, like, I had, like, I think, like, I followed a lot of the big people in the industry. Like, I think it was Barry and Evans and a few other people. And there were some other guys, like, I just kind of hopped on there. I was like, okay. And I gravitated to a few of the guys that I still talk to this day. And I was like, hey, how do you get into this space? And just randomly slid up into some of these DMs that were open. And just after doing that, like, I got hooked on to a site to write for free. They asked me if I wanted to podcast. And I was like, what's a podcast? And the guy was like, okay, just, buy this cheap mic. And I was like, nobody wants to listen to me talk about anything, much less football. Like, what, do you really understand what you're getting yourself into? Like, legit? I was like, you haven't even heard me talk. Like, I've typed you DMs on Twitter. Why do you think you want to hear me talk about football? And I remember recording, like, the first episode off of a mock draft we did, like, 5 years ago for a now defunct site called Fantasy Football 24/7, which he sold draft kits and stuff like that, and really went from doing all of that to helping run the site and hopping from site to site to site to site. Really, I mean, to be honest, I love football so damn much and playing fantasy that the more I got obsessed with it, the more I got into it. I just wanted to, like, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Like, even when I was playing in rec leagues and the Hurricane League that I was talking about before, like, people would text me and stuff like that, like, I'm not trading you, that guy. Stop sending me 50 freaking text messages about this shit. And dear God, why did you put in 50 waiver claims? And oh my God, why do you drop your kicker every single week? You're such an asshole. Like, I know that's in the rules and you could do that and take advantage of another waiver spot, but nobody does that. Why are you being a butthole about this? And I'm like, I want to win. Like, right. I mean, at the time, I was like, yeah, I want to win. It's a way to sit here and take advantage when y'all kind of suck at this. So, I mean, really, honestly, at the core of it, just obsessed with football, man. Never could get enough of it after I got into this.
I love the fact you mentioned you followed the big names, including Brad Evans, who you kind of work with now with
I love Brad. Brad's so freaking funny, and
I want to get in a room with you and Brad together because I think that conversation is going to go absolutely off the wall. So I'm an animated person myself. I'm a hand talker. It's what I do. We're very similar in that, like both. And Brad can talk. And it's awesome. So that's my goal. I got to get in a room with you two at some point. But you mentioned Quant the Edge. You mentioned Elliot there and Jumpy. Ellie came over to Fade the Noise, brought you kind of along with you. Can you talk about that, like that, explain that jump to Fade the Noise? Because that was a pretty instrumental part of your career right now. That's where you are now.
Yeah, man. So really starting to write in this space, my whole thing from the very beginning, because after I got some traction with some of the articles that I wrote and stuff like that, and I was like, you know what? I don't know if I can ever do this for a career. But you hear all of the people in this space and they're always like, oh, I mean, I never thought about it. I never thought about ever doing this. I kind of fell backwards into it. There was, especially during like some dark times in my life, like right before I ended up actually, not too far before this, maybe 6 to 8 months before this, I went through a stretch in my life where I was out of work for about 6 months. It was really, really rough, like a lot of like just inner struggles, like where you go through that, like you don't have a job, you can't get a job, you're trying to get a job, trying to support your family. And I was like, I thought about doing this for a job every single damn day when I woke up. So I know we hear that recirculated, oh, I just don't know how. I thought about this every time I went to sleep to eventually try to do this. After a certain point, like, I got into this with, oh, it's fun, and let me see how far I can take this, and maybe I could just make more side money for whiskey, or to take vacations, or if I could make like $2,000 extra a year, that's great. That justifies me doing all of this. And then when I went through that really hard stretch, like, where I was like, man, I don't know what I want to do with the rest of my life. Like, you go through that stretch where some people don't go through that stretch, but I did in my mid-30s, and it just, everything I felt like was crashing down, and the one thing that made sense to me was football. And I had about 6 months, and I was trying to find jobs, couldn't find jobs, and I was basically treating football like, okay, well, I can't find a job right now. Regardless of whatever I do, I've got on Indeed. I've sent my resume out to everybody, and I could not get a job. And I thought about it every day, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to treat this like this is a job. I'm going to get on social media. I'm going to try to push out as much high quality as what the highest quality content that I can do, and get better at this. And I went from a bunch of different websites. Like, I wrote for Roto Underworld for a stretch. Matt Kelly, for whatever people want to say. That dude is amazing. I love Matt Kelly to death. He was one of the first people that ever gave me a chance as a writer. So regardless of whatever is on social media, all those things about Matt Kelly, he's one of the first people that actually gave me a damn chance in this industry. So he will always be in my good graces. Love that guy. But wrote for him for a while. I wrote for Numberfire and JJ for a second. Hopped to Fantasy Data. I just kept trying to go, and it wasn't like I was trying to be an assassin. But, like, for me, I was like, okay, if I can make this into something, or at least I can make this into something where I can make a little more side money, you know, like $10 here, $15 here, whatever, writing articles, I was like, what opportunities can I kind of, like, gravitate to that are going to offer me a higher ceiling or no ceiling? Like, if I work my ass off, like, legit, cannot sit in a chair because I have worked my ass off and I keep sliding onto the floor, what is going to allow me the ability to keep climbing and give me other opportunities? And so that kind of led me to TQE with Elliot, because I randomly DM'd him one day based off of a damn tweet that he put out about he was going to be involved in another venture. And I got writing there, didn't know shit about DFS at the time, was doing matchups and redraft stuff for them. And then I was doing stuff for Fantasy Data. I did a little stuff before landing with Fade the Noise at 4for4. And really just being able to gravitate to Fade the Noise, and kind of like a homecoming to being able to work with Elliot and so many other damn talented people that we have here. It's been a crazy 5 years.
Yeah, man, that's an amazing story. What are some of your more memorable podcasts or interview that you can think of right now?
The first time that I ever got on Sirius Radio, I thought that I was either going to have a heart attack or shit my pants. I remember I got on there because I DM'd one of the hosts on there, and I was like, look, I know I'm a nobody from nowhere, but look, here's some stuff I've done. If you'd like somebody ever as a guest, if you need somebody, please consider me. And then when they hit me up, and I was like, what? Okay, I guess so. Like, before I did that the very first time and went with live radio, it was one of those things where it's like, do you just, like, sit naked in your office? Like, it's one of those things like if no, like, the pantsless job interview, just to kind of, like, to be, like, where you're kind of take yourself out of it for a second. You're just like, okay, just to sit here and break the tension. Like, before that first time on Sirius, I took, like, 2 or 3 shots. Like, I was like, I gotta break the tension here, man. Like, I was about to lose it. And my wife and kids like went to Sonic to go get like slushies and crap like that because so there wasn't like a lot of like noise in the house. And I'm sitting there at the house and they're about to call me to go on to Sirius, and I was like, bro, I don't know if I could do this. I don't know if I could do this. I don't know if I could do this. And then the call comes through and I was like, hey, what's going on? Oh my God. It's one of the most like my heart was freaking racing, man.
But before we go to the next question, I'm going to just say this now. I don't want any of you guys to stand up because when he said the naked part, you guys all kind of nodded your head. So let's all stay seated until my camera is off, okay? Thank you.
Well, Matt already confirmed he's not wearing pants right now, so he's definitely not standing up. It's fine.
Yeah. Deal.
He's never
I
wearing
won't
pants
stand
like
up.
100 kids, but it's all good.
That's how you get to that point. You never wear pants, my friend.
So let's just envision a world. So right before the show, we almost went live. It would have been funny to go live because you mentioned maybe we were in an alternate reality. Let's just say in that alternate reality, you never got bit by the fantasy football bug. You never got into it. You were never. It just whatever reason it didn't hit you the same way. What would you be doing right now if that hadn't happened?
So I would either still be working in the previous field that I was working, and so for everybody, and we haven't discussed this off air even. Before getting into the fantasy industry, I was actually a registered nurse for 12 years. I worked pediatrics. I worked for St. Jude. I was a pediatric cancer nurse for 12 years. I would actually either be doing that or the other passion that I have in my life. I love doing woodworking stuff. Like I could, if you gave me a lathe, you gave me all this kind of stuff, I could craft your ass a baseball bat right now. I love doing stuff like that. So it'd either be I'd be working still as a nurse, or I'd be doing something with furniture, probably.
You hear that? Everyone who
Cool.
wants a trophy for their league, hit up D Brown.
So I'm kind of disappointed in you right now, D Brown. It doesn't look like it because you have a nice bald head there. But I was going through your Twitter, and I really thought that if you weren't doing football for a living here, then maybe you'd go into hairdressing, because I have seen your French braid skill. So this is kind of the part of the show that's off air, and I don't really plan on it. But I brought myself a little braid, right? Little yellow one here, our little elastic. However, obviously it's not for my hair. So I brought myself a friend.
Oh my God.
Let's do it.
And
All the girl dads, let's do it.
Oh my God!
Truth be told, I'm an expert when it comes to ponytails and pigtails. But the braid part is not my strength. And we're going to keep this interview going, but you're going to help talk me through how to put a nice little French braid in my little mannequin here.
My oldest daughter is to blame for this. Her playing soccer and needing to have me to have braid skills for her to go to games and practices and stuff like that. She is the thesis behind this entire segment. So shout out to my daughter. Okay. Don't hold it like that.
Hey, I've had 14 kids and they've all survived so far. So we've been doing okay. But it's short, it's really short, and it's thick. So this is difficult. So do I need to grab like three? I know Major, jump in here too, because I know you've done some braids. Calvin, you're out, man. You're out. This is above your pay.
Handle this one.
I mean, really, the whole thing, you got to start. You don't have a brush. You just got your hands there, right?
I do have a screwdriver.
What is wrong with this guy?
I don't. That's not. You. Well, hold up. Wait a minute. Is it Phillips or flat?
This is definitely this is a
oh no. We can't work with Phillips. If flat, you could use the edge. No. Phillips, just go ahead and leave that on the desk. It's fine. You're not going to use that here. But the flathead, yes, we could do something with that. You could part it there, but no. Anyway, moving on. No, just pull all the hair to the back. Basically, you're trying to sit here and get it into the 3 equal pieces. So, like, basically, I usually have to start with like holding kind of like that. Except where it doesn't look like you're trying to turn the said supposed child into a voodoo doll. But literally it's just pulling all the hair to the back, separate it out, and usually I will hold the 2 outer pieces in each one of my hands. And then you start by over that middle piece that's just kind of sitting there, you start with you go right side over the middle and you kind of hold it. I don't know what that is, but yes. And then you'll go left side over and you just kind of alternate back and forth. And however it eventually works out, I think that some point that doll head's gonna just probably like burst into flames on accident. There we go! I'm going to take credit for that. It's not really me. I'm just still going to take credit for that because I need that right now.
Oh. This is the best segment ever. I'm crying. Oh, my God.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, it didn't work out very well.
I did not know where that was
too short. So now let's move along here. Fantasy sports teaches us a lot of different things right now. This is a fantastic, like braiding children's hair. See, I tie everything together. There's always a tie-in point here.
That's what's called a professional transition, by the way.
I should be doing this for a living.
But
seriously, not only does fantasy sports teach us how to braid and be better, enhance our dad skills, but it teaches us all kinds of things. What are some of the things that you've learned in your time in fantasy football? Because I know you've had your hands in a few different things there with DFS, with the podcasting, with the writing. What are some of the things that you've learned?
Just skill-wise, like after doing this for so many years?
Just in general, what are some of the things that's taught? Like those relationships. We're going to touch on relationships here in a little bit, but just in general, what have you learned? Like,
oh man,
have you become a better person, like a kinder person? Probably not if you're on Twitter because it's Twitter. But,
I mean, honestly, you just never take anything for granted, man. Like, whether it's like somebody that you run across and you being real or taking the time to talk to somebody in the same way and that you would do in your real day-to-day life. I think that's something that's still missed a lot, especially in social media. And I feel like that's one of the things that I really appreciated getting into this space, and I still do to this day. Like, I'll answer DMs, I'll talk to people. It doesn't matter. That's why I've never closed mine. Because, like, when I got into this space, I legit, like, there are so many people that I truly appreciate, and whether that was making the choice of going into doing this full time, like reaching out to people that are doing this full time and picking their brain. Or when I mean, good gosh, like the second or third thing that I ever wrote, I sent to still one of my buddies in the industry today. I cold DM'd Mike Tagliere one time, and I was like, I'm working on this series, really 2 seconds for your thoughts. And he DM'd me back and like gave me this whole list of like stuff that he liked and didn't like. So like there are people that like have DM'd me and I still to this day, like I'll read people's articles, I'll give them constructive feedback, because sometimes like I think it's just being real with people and like not taking some of these real conversations for granted. It's like, I don't give two shits how many people follow you on social media. Like, I don't care about any of that crap. Like, we're all people. Right. And we step outside of this tiny Twitter bubble that we have. Nobody gives a shit, like, if you have 10,000 followers, you have 2 or whatever. It doesn't diminish or increase the quality of person you are. So for me, it's really just about, like, not taking any of those conversations, regardless of whoever it is, for granted. Now, people might not like what I have to say if they send me an article and I'm like, okay, here's my real feedback on it. I'm not being an asshole, but, like, this is legit if you want, like, what you can improve on it from my standpoint, and I'm not the best, I'm never going to tell you that I'm the best writer, but you're asking my opinion, I'll give it to somebody. So, like, I never take any of that stuff for granted, so it's really appreciating every single bit of that.
Well, so then very soon I'm going to send you a Taysom Hill article, and you can give me your thoughts on that, and that you can, help me out.
Can I just say I love him? Good writing.
Yes!
Keep going.
You were already my favorite guest until before that. Yeah. So, like, that's
come on.
It's cemented now.
People do not want to hear that he could start this year. They hate that. They absolutely hate it. And he could start, and he could be a top 6 fantasy quarterback, and people don't want to hear it. So, yes, send it to me.
Real quick. I'm going to jump in here real quick because this may have been one of Calvin's best hits on Twitter, and he got a lot of venom from Twitter.
So much flack.
Taysom Hill, greater than Jalen Hurts. And boy,
Ooh.
did he get drilled on that. And I loved every minute of it. It was fantastic.
I mean, I love both of them, so it's like you're
too.
asking me to pick between two of my loves. You know, I love both of them for what they are and they can be. So I can't pick between them, to be honest.
I like that answer. That's great. So you can help me out, and obviously people helped you out along the way. You mentioned like quite a few sites. You mentioned some different people. You mentioned Mike Tagliere there, and so. But what are some other people, I guess, that you would say kind of came in and helped mold you into who you are in the fantasy world today?
I would say I have so many thank yous and so many things that I could sit here and go on and on and on and on about my still boss, Elliot Christ. I absolutely love that man. One of the realest people you ever talk to, whether it's on social media in real life, has no problems giving you real advice versus also fighting for you and giving you real feedback and opportunities. And just as a person, he is one of the people that, like, whether it's been the opportunity to grow and learn as an analyst, and yes, like some of this was me like never sleeping and deciding I wanted to push into these other areas, you know what I mean? So some of that is me, but also like the opportunity to say, like, somebody be like, okay, I know you don't know that much about DFS, but would you be willing to do this? And do you think you could do this? Okay, well, give me some type of sample about this, and if it's good, then let's run with it. You know, like, I mean, dear God in heaven, like, I was grinding, not this last year, obviously, but the year before that, I was grinding preseason DFS like it was nobody's damn business. Like, I'm going through, like, game-by-game snap counts and all kinds of crap that nobody gives two shits about unless you're playing preseason DFS. And I was like, nobody's putting out content for this stuff. Like, can we do this? And he's like, all right, if you're willing to do it, sure, let's do it. And so, to this day, I still cannot say enough good things about him.
I love that because a lot of times we expect the breaks to be made for us. We expect things just to fall in our laps. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that you grinded your ass off to get to where you are, but you also needed a little help along the way. Yep. And you needed someone to believe in you, like Elliot believed in you, put his faith in you. And here's the kicker. You came through, right? It's good to have someone to believe in you, but you have to deliver once given an opportunity. And everyone wants those opportunities, but is everyone willing to achieve greatness with that opportunity when it's given to them? Can you take advantage of that opportunity? I guess that's the main thing when we're talking about life, when we're talking about fantasy football, whatever we're talking about. Can you take advantage of those opportunities once you're given? And many people don't get those opportunities, and they have to make their own opportunities, and it's a whole different thing altogether. But bottom line is, when you have that opportunity, you've either created it for yourself, and if you've created it for yourself, then you have to kick in that door and take advantage of it. And you've definitely done that. You were given opportunities have been there, but you worked to get to that opportunity. You worked to get that chance to have that opportunity. And then once that opportunity came, you took full advantage of it. And it's a fantastic story. And yeah, it's been a short period of time, like Fade the Noise, and that whole thing shot off. But everyone forgets those other 4 years before FTN. Mm-hmm. Like the work that you put in, you mentioned 4 or 5 sites going from one, and it's more about your lack of commitment issues in fantasy football, DFS and stuff. But but you learned. You talk about JJ. There's a great guy to learn from. Mm-hmm. Elliot, another great guy to learn from. Matt Kelly, you mentioned, another great guy to learn from. These are, in my opinions, heavyweights in the industry, and you had an opportunity to learn from each and every one of them to help mold you to become who you are today. And you look at your bio, I think it's Sr Fantasy Analyst at FTN, and I think you have a huge part on the audio content end of things too. So you're wearing multiple hats in this new role, plus still doing the writing. It's not just like, okay, I've made it, now I'm just going to chill out here and relax and have everyone else do the work. No, you're still putting in the work on top of everything. So,
oh man, I'm still doing, I mean, like, even behind the scenes, I mean, whether I'm not on Twitter as much as maybe I used to be sometimes, I mean, whether it's even starting like with FTN, it's and people always talk about like before I kind of go into all of this, if anybody wants to understand, like we're talking about the grind, and I understand the titling of this this episode and stuff. One of the hardest freaking times that I was the most burnt out with football that I have ever been was not this last season, but the season before. And there was a stretch where I was working overnights as a nurse, and my schedule was basically every damn weekend, except it was like one weekend I'd work like Friday and Saturday night, the next weekend I'd work Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. And I was doing DFS content, and I was active in like our subs and the chats and all that kind of stuff. So I would literally work a Friday night, a Saturday night. I would stay up Sunday morning in our chat for about 2 to 3 hours. I would set my lineups as well in DFS, do all of that kind of stuff. I'd sleep for about 2 hours, wake up before the 3 p.m. games started. I would also hop back in the chat, tell anybody about late swaps that I thought we needed to make, or at least give people's ideas about it, look at my own lineups, go back to sleep, wake back up at about 5 or 6 o'clock, get up, and whether it was cook dinner for my kids, be there as a family guy, then go back to work that night at 7 o'clock, working an overnight shift after, like, was like my 3rd or 4th night in a row. You know, so the grind is damn real, man. And really, my whole thing through all of this is to either try to work my ass off, or, and people talk about, like, you hear all of these just, man, I feel like I haven't made it. Nobody that has made it. So people putting out stuff here and saying, like, how do you make it in fantasy football? I don't look at myself as made it. Am I doing this as a career and as a job right now? Yes. But, like, that's not making it. Like, I'm not sitting on my hands. I'm still working my ass off right now to try to continue to better myself in any way I could possibly can. And so, for me, like, people are like, okay, well, like, even I got 2 DMs this morning, and it's like, you know, I really want to try to work in this. I want to get paid doing writing and stuff like that. And I was like, the best thing I could possibly tell you is not, like, you hear all this, like, manufactured or reproduced stuff, and it's like, be positive, be yourself, do stuff that other people aren't doing. All this, like, how many people are saying that same stuff right now? Like, after a while, isn't that the Billboard slogan? Like, come on, be real. Like, oh, network and blah, blah, blah. Like, get the fuck out of here, man. Tell people something that actually helps them. And the only thing... What's up?
That's like what? Cookie cutter analysis, right?
It is! And, like, the best thing that I can tell people nowadays is that what I still try to do, and the best way that I could tell people right now, if you want to carve yourself out a niche, or is be multiple or be niche. That's the best advice I could give anybody. It's either be damn good at one thing, because as this gets bigger and bigger and betting and Dynasty and all these other platforms continue to grow, if you are the best damn person at this one thing, somebody's gonna find you, or you're gonna find somebody. Like, that's gonna happen eventually if you keep working your ass off. Or if you're multiple, and that's really the attack approach that I took with it, was like, I might not be the very best at everything, but I could sit here and try to be really freaking good at a lot of things. And I can keep growing and keep trying to put other things in my tool belt. Like, can I edit audio? Yes. Do I know how, like, to run a social media? Yes. Can I edit an article? Can I post? Can I do all these other different skills? Do I know how to play DFS? Did I start out, like, I started as a redraft guy. I didn't know what the shit Dynasty was. I got into Dynasty. I didn't know what the shit DFS was. I got into DFS. I didn't know how to edit edit a podcast. Now I do a lot of that. You know, like, there's all these different things that you can sit here and say, like, if you wanted to do this as a career, or at least a side hustle, or a job, or make a little bit of extra money, or hell, do this for fun. Add different skills, man. Like, never be satisfied with adding something else to it. Like, there's still ways that I still can get better and learn more. That doesn't stop. And when it stops, you've either climbed to the supposed top inside your head, and you're probably going to get surpassed by somebody. So if you want to still keep growing as a person and as doing all of this, stay fucking hungry, man. Stay willing to work.
Well, I think one of the things you didn't say you were you dipped your hat in was marketing, and I was listening to that. And
I've done a little bit of that.
I think there's an opportunity for a T-shirt like "You're the B niche." You know what I mean? I think we can work something there. No, am I wrong?
I don't disagree. I like it.
So there's that. So we talked about these hats you got going on, the fade, the noise, everything else going on. It's the off season, and off season does not mean no season. What do you got planned in the off season right now, there, Derek?
I mean,
where
right
can people
now,
find you and stuff like that. And
yeah, it's all NFL draft stuff, all our podcasts. So really putting out a ton of content right now for FTN Fantasy, but you can check out all the three arms of FTN Fantasy, FTN Daily, FTN Bets. I've got a few prop bet articles out of there, some futures articles that are hanging out there. But a lot of it right now is all NFL draft. So you can check out our podcast over at Fade the Chalk. That's the main one for FTN, although there is a large network of podcasts. We've got, last I looked, 10 or 11 shows under that umbrella. So we got stuff covering everything from PGA DFS to, dude, if there was people out there playing ping pong and somebody could bet on it, we'd probably have a damn podcast for it. So really, if you search FTN on any podcast provider, you're going to find a slew of things that come up. But Adam Pfeiffer, my co-host, and I are rocking 4 to 5 episodes a week, going through NFL draft prospects. This week we're hitting best ball, so looking at underdog, looking at draft strategies, looking at our episode that's going to drop tomorrow or the next day is looking at early targets that you can go after in best ball that their ADPs just don't make any damn sense. So yeah, that's really where you can find me, all places, any places. Anybody that looks at this crazy looking face and says, wow, that looks a little bit like the Avatar. Find me on Twitter at @dbro_FFB. That's why I stay with the cartoon, because it's prettier than this. So head over there, stare at that, enjoy that.
Oh, man. You've touched on it quite a bit during this interview, but could you put a bow on it for us? For those of us trying to make it, can you give us some like advice? Like what's like your number one thing when for people trying to get into the industry?
So two different things. One, I'm gonna hammer on it again. Be niche or be multiple. The other thing about it is, don't ever be scared. If somebody's got their DMs open, what do you have to lose by reaching out and having a conversation with somebody? The worst thing that can happen at it, the worst, the absolute worst, the downside of all downsides is that somebody doesn't reply back to you. But here's the thing. What happens if they do? Holy shit. What if somebody actually talks back to you and you engage in a conversation with somebody you really feel like you can either network with, gain advice, gain insight, learn a different skill? So don't ever be scared. If they got their freaking DMs open, do it. Reach out to somebody, because the worst case scenario is it never happens. But there's nothing but upside there for you.
Great advice. Whew. That's a good interview, man.
That was a fantastic show here. We're going to wrap it all up. I'm kind of touching back on this there, D-Bro. I'm going to put a little – I wish I had some music here. I want to fire up a little Eye of the Tiger. You know, going for that championship. You're going for that title this year, that DFS Writer of the Year. We talk about it. Where's that hunger at? You know, you mentioned he's like, it was an honor to be mentioned, to be nominated. But once you got nominated, now the competitive juice has flowed. So you've got that nomination on your belt. Now you need a second nomination, right? That's how it goes. Once you get that nomination, then you need that trophy, that hardware that comes with it. That's the competitive nature in every single one of us. Have you thought about how you're going to get there yet? Have you got some nice little DFS spin you're going to come back with? A little secret? You can't. Don't mention it to us, because
no, it's all good. Open book here, guys. I mean, right now, really, it's just trying to hammer on as much DFS content as I possibly can, whether that's audio, video, article-wise, towards the end of the season. And again, this is probably going to look different whenever we get closer to the season and stuff like that. I did a lot of a few full slate breakdowns, a lot of video content. For me, it comes down to just like trying to maximize every single opportunity that I can and put out as much content into the space as I possibly can with DFS. I still think matchups are not in a lot of different ways, and possibly maybe it's the way that I look at them versus other people and stuff like that. Particularly wide receiver cornerback matchups. I think there's a lot of noise and a lot of still analysis that comes out there about those. Because yes, one wide receiver does not line up on one side of the field all the time, 80% of the time, but there are other things that you can come out of, like with wide receiver cornerback matchups, and I know a lot of people talk about there's a lot of noise with stuff like that. Okay, if a guy runs 70% of his routes, if he plays 2 or 3 different positions and he runs 70% of his routes against 2 shit cornerbacks, you probably could say he's more than likely possibly going to have a good day, as opposed to, I'm not telling you that he's running 80% of his routes against this one damn dude. So I think that that's one of the different areas that there is still a lot of, at least more nuanced analysis that could be put out into this space.
I love it. That's that's a perfect way to kind of wrap up this show here. Calvin Major, you got anything else you want to fire out there?
I got 2 things. Number one, shout out to like the Viper gang, or we call them Venom gang. What's the name of the crew? Because they're in the DMs, or they're in the chat going wild, man. They loving it. And the second thing is, what's your go-to whiskey?
Oh, okay. So if I'm going $40-$50 a bottle, which is the hope, if you can find it, it's probably Eagle Rare or Angel's Envy or Basil Hayden. One of those 3. If I'm going cheap, and the go-to that I'm actually sipping on right now, I'm not a really hard man to please. It's all good. Like, I will not step away from it. Wild Turkey Honey. I will sip this like it's water all day, every day. I don't care if people make fun of me about it. I don't care what anybody thinks about it. I will drink it like water. It's all good.
Oh, man. Well, I can't wait to meet you in person, man. And that first round is on me, dude.
Hey, man. I'm here for free drinks. I'll hit you back, but I'm not against taking somebody else buying me a shot.
Yes, sir.
My only thing is the right marketing idea is be niche, please, Derek Brown.
Love it.
I definitely see some T-shirts that come out of this whole thing, when we're all said and done. So we'll
Matt, we need a series of tank tops. Thank you very much. We live in the South. We sweat.
I was kind of hoping for like.
I only asked for 2 things: tank top. Well, 3. Fine, we'll go with hoodies too. I was gonna say tank tops, adult onesies, or hoodies. That's the top 3 if we're gonna go hierarchy here.
Are you planning on going to the expo this year?
I don't think I'm going to be able to make it out there, only because of scheduling and stuff of that nature. I would love to go to it because there are so many people that I love and adore that are going to be there. I forget who. Bob runs it, right? Mm-hmm. I love Bob Lung. He was one of the first guests I ever had on when I was hosting a podcast way, 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 way back in the day. I love that man. It's salt of the earth. So it is nothing about not wanting to go. It's probably just a scheduling thing. I won't be able to make it.
See, and here, I was kind of hoping we get Bob together and get us a B-niche onesie that we can wear together like twinsies.
Oh, I would do that. I would so do that. I would hop back on this podcast and do that. I will wear an adult onesie.
To see that, though. Nobody wants to see that.
I didn't say I was going to get on here and wear a freaking, like, man thong. I said I was going to get on here and wear an adult onesie. Everything's covered up, Major. Like, I look like now. Except there's a zipper. Except there's a zipper. Like, what's the problem there?
A grown man with a straight beard running around in a onesie. I don't. I'm sorry.
I have a Deadpool onesie. I mean, if you'd have asked me, I'd have come on wearing it right now. I don't care.
You probably got the onesie with the back cut out for easy access, right?
No, actually I don't. Would I be against that, considering like, hey, can I keep the onesie on, stay warm, and take a shit? Sure. No, I don't have that, but hey, if we're gonna go out the window and we're designing things, why not?
This guy is manic, man. This guy is absolutely manic.
And you know what? I'm not opposed to doing anything out there. Anyone who's watched any of the other previous shows here, you know, we've done some pretty interesting things. I've subjected myself to some other interesting things. So I'm down. Let's do this. I don't care how or when we're going to get together. We're going to wear onesies together. If we have to go walk around like the Great Mall of Minnesota or whatever together, we'll do that. I don't care. It don't matter. Let's
I've got no shame. There's a lot of things that I have and I don't have. I have no shame. None at all.
And with that, we have concluded episode 53 of the Dynasty Vipers ViperCast. For Derek Brown, for Kelvin, for Major, I'm Matt, and we gone once I find the button.